Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, wherever, whenever you're listening. This is the Root for Wisconsin show, episode 149, coming at you from the Riverwood Gallery Studio in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm host, producer Eric Fisher. Joining me this week, we've got two guests, maybe three, who knows. But for sure, we do have member of the Highway 22 crew, fourth man, Sean Klosterman. And he just got hung up on by his cat. So I will introduce our other co-host, Dylan Tritt. Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Eric. How are you? And he's back.
And member of the Highway 22 crew, the fifth man, as we introduced him, Sean Klosterman. Sean, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Even better when you don't get hung up on by a cat.
Yeah. Well, you can blame my wife, too.
That's actually, well, how is it her fault?
She picked up the cat and dragged it across the phone.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it.
That would do it.
Without further ado, we do have some business to take care of. First and foremost, I always got to talk about our friends over at Rage and Pro Wrestling, RPW. Next event coming up June 1st from the Wapaka Expo Center. RPW Homecoming to main event. Chris Masters and Ken Anderson, among many other matches on that card, featuring talent seen on NWA and AEW as well. Not going to want to miss it if you can. Doors open at 5:30. Surge starts at 6. Homecoming at 7 p.m. Tickets available at RPW Pro Wrestling and look sharp in the Fox River Mall, so get those tickets while you can. Our other partner, Ticket Smarter, get $10 off of every order when you use the code ROOTS10, ROOTS, number 10, for $10 off your ticket orders. Also, before we get into the episode, and we'll talk more about the NCAA tournament here in just a few moments, but do want to shout out our two winners of the men's bracket. It was My Picks 9, so My Picks 9, congratulations. And on the women's side, it was John. So congratulations to John and My Picks 9. Not too terrible of a showing for the Root for Wisconsin crew, all things considered. Ramsey came in 12th with F College Basketball 1,190. Sean, do you remember where you finished?
I'm not exactly sure.
Oh, Coach Dahl, he actually took the win for the cast. Coach Dahl was in 6th place among those tied for 6th. 4 people tied for 6th place. So got to give him his shout out there. So Justin, Ramsey, then looks like myself, 41st. Shauna in 48th. Sean, you were in 55th. Shauna.
Yeah, I was way down there. I was in the upper 60s, I think.
And Dylan, you were in 67th.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So, little rough for all three of us, but could have been rougher.
Right.
Yeah. I know I did well on the women's side, so.
Yeah, you and I tied for 2nd, so.
Yep.
Congrats to us.
Congrats to us.
With that said, we get into our episode, starting off with what we had rooted for in the past week, or in Sean's case, the last, month? I don't know how long you've been gone. It's been a couple weeks.
I don't know.
But with that said, Sean, why don't you lead us off? Catch us up on what's going on.
I think all I rooted for was WrestleMania this last weekend, and that was a blast to watch, and it was just some amazing matches, and just all in all a great pay-per-view.
Yeah, I also had rooted for WrestleMania, and I actually do want to kind of dedicate a segment to that tonight because there's so much to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So we will put a pin in that, but that was definitely my root for, and definitely worthwhile on that. And was a blast to watch, especially Sunday night, and genuinely made me feel like a kid again watching it. It was awesome.
Oh, 100%.
So, like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit further in the episode here. But with that, Dylan, your root for?
Mine's going to be pretty obvious. You know, we had a couple of Final Four games and a couple national championship games for men's and women's D1 basketball over the weekend. Great games. I watched as many of them as I could. Yeah, just put the bow on that season It was a fun tournament. The weekend was fun. I had a great time watching college basketball this weekend. So
Glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. And, for what it's worth, also, phenomenal basketball games played both Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
mm-hmm.
Was definitely a great weekend of college hoops as well. My favorite game of the weekend probably was the women's Final Four, Iowa, UConn. I do want to ask you, Dylan, moving screen or not?
Absolutely, that was a moving screen. Absolutely, 100%.
Boo.
Well, look, it's tough because you never want to put the officials in a position where they are going to be deciding the game. You never want that. But in a close game like that, not calling the obvious moving screen is also deciding the game just for the other team. You got to look at it that way. And by rule, that was 100% a moving screen. Her feet were not set. She was spread eagle. And her elbow.
I don't know if you can say that, but we're going to keep it in there. But if we ever get any, first of all, we'd have to arrive somewhere. But if we get canceled, this is going to be the episode where that happens.
Okay, her feet were well outside her shoulders width as she was shifting to her left. And her elbows were way out. She definitely chicken winged out. That's textbook illegal screen. Right in front of the official. There's no way you can realistically get away with that.
All right. I disagree, but
you would be incorrect. Objectively, you'd be incorrect.
I will say, when you watch it in slow motion, I would agree with you.
Well,
but
yeah. That makes it more obvious.
What I'm saying is, when you watch it in game speed, that is a tough call to make. I mean, not even taking like the situation of it. If you're talking like 10 minutes left in the first half, I still, for how many of those don't get called, I feel like that was an odd one to make that call in that moment, given how the game was officiated to that point.
See, I tend to agree with what you just said there, how call it consistent throughout the game. But at the same time, you're right in front of the official, and it's obvious. Like, that was an obvious moving screen. Obvious moving screen. I hate the fact that that's what, I don't want to say dictated the game or decided the game, but you can't let that go. You just can't let it go.
All right. Well, I guess we'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
All right. With that said, we go on to our Tyler Hero Noogies of the Week, from the positives to the negatives. And Dylan, I'll let you lead this one off if you got one ready.
I do. I've been seeing a lot of people hating on Caitlin Clark lately. I'm not sure why. I think a lot of it, I shouldn't say a lot of it, there's some of it that's obviously taken out of context. Obviously, big media conglomerates tend to do that from time to time. But, what Caitlin Clark has done for the women's game with her time in Iowa, I don't think you can really compare that with any other player on the women's side of college basketball, what they've done for the game. I don't think it's even close either. We'll get into this a little bit later, I'm sure, but the women's national championship had like 4 million more viewers than the men's. And that could be because the game was on at 9:20 Eastern time on TBS instead of CBS, but it doesn't matter. Still had 18 million viewers for that game. So, I see her as a pioneer among pioneers for this game, and I don't see any reason to give her any crap or say, well, yeah, you can do that stuff against 18-year-olds, but now you're going to be doing it against grown women. I mean, she should be applauded 24/7. So that was a little disappointing to see, but hopefully that changes when she gets drafted.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off that because that was actually one of my nuggies. I have two, actually three. It's been a pretty interesting couple days.
You sound angry. Got three nuggies.
A little bit. That's probably my biggest one, right? Is this media coverage of the Final Four and of the championship game for the women's side, where not even being, that guy and saying the right things, but the women's game was incredible these last couple of years because of her, because of Paige Beckers, because of Angel Reese, because of, Juju Watkins for USC, because of Green Bay basketball, what they do on a year-by-year basis. So as someone who's been a fan of women and girls basketball, this coverage of, you have all these WNBA legends who are now just dumping on Caitlin Clark and being kind of shitbags about it, for being honest. Like the one, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, she didn't break my record. My record's still for 43 years and no one even knew. Well, yeah, that's true. But now we do. So instead of demonizing the person who is bringing this all to the forefront, bringing your name up, making you relevant 43 years later, maybe we applaud this person. Hey, Justin's joining us. If he can hear us, I think I heard him take the headset off. Justin, you got us?
Now I got, yeah, here we go. I'm back in the game again. Here we go. What's going on, guys?
You joined us just in time for our Noogies of the Week, and Dylan and I both were giving Noogies to the negative coverage of the NCAA Women's Final Fours and Caitlin Clark and all these bitter former players who are kind of taking a chance to dump on her and dump on the women's game, saying it's not going to matter going forward, and kind of everything that's come about that coverage over the last 3-4 days.
Yeah, I think that's a bunch of crap. I mean, if you haven't watched, I think the stat of significance, I think for the UConn Iowa game was 14.2 million people watched that game on average. Like, yes, Caitlin Clark has an effect on that, but so does Paige Beckers, so does KK Arnold, so do
Aaliyah Edwards.
Yeah, some of the great Iowa players that play off of Caitlin Clark. A great coaching battle. Like it was real drama TV, and it was great basketball. I was saying this to some of my fellow coaches, like Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal player, a phenomenal scorer. But for me, as a basketball coach and a basketball purist, and enjoying the coverage in all facets of the game, I could not coach Caitlin Clark. She is a risk taker. She is not fundamentally sound defensively. She's just all over. She is reckless abandon when she doesn't have the ball in her hands, and she runs to the ball. That's a little bit of fact with the face guarding of her, so she's got to kind of work that way. But defensively, if you just isolate and watch Caitlin Clark, and you're a purist like I am, and you gotta watch all facets of the game, it's incredibly hard to watch her without the ball in her hands. But to the people that say that the game of basketball is not going to matter going forward, on the girls' side, they're dumb. They're idiots. They haven't been paying attention. And it hasn't just been Caitlin Clark. This game has grown. Dawn Staley has grown this game. Gino Auriemma has grown this game over the last 2 decades, from the time when he was duking it out with Pat Summitt to where he is now. Now he's duking it out with Dawn Staley, and who is currently the best coach in women's college basketball, right? Like, you're not paying attention. It's a growing, fast growing game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was my big one. And then I did have a second noogie to the Atlanta Falcons, who have decided to pay Kevin King. I did not have that on my bingo card for 2024, that somebody would put Kevin King under contract, but here we are. And
Well,
I am just as shocked as anybody.
what was the contract, Eric?
I can't imagine it was much. I haven't seen the details on it. I was trying to find it. I'm assuming it's a vet minimum, but even that's too much.
I don't know that I agree with you on that. And I'm about as big as a Kevin King hater as you are. But if we look at it, I mean, Chase Young flopped out with two teams already, and the Saints decided to pay him $10 million a year. So when you're talking about a guy that's coming off an injury that was a second-round pick, he's played a lot of football in his career, and he's still relatively young. I don't know, like a vet minimum. It's no lose. It's a no lose situation. You're gonna bring him in for camp, and if he makes the team, great. You've got an experienced backup with starting reps. I don't. As much as we all want to hate Kevin King, I don't know that that's a bad general manager.
I want to be honest, very clear on this one. I am not hating on Kevin King on this particular juncture, but I have to think between this move, which I don't have any money on it yet, but between this move, the Kirk Cousins contract, I think the Falcons GM must be a moron. Like, you cannot tell me that you're going to give Kirk Cousins guaranteed $84 million to not win to have won one playoff game in his career. They spent all this money elsewhere. Now you bring in the dope himself, Kevin King, to get burned by Tampa Bay, not once, but twice a year again.
I don't know that I agree with you on the Kirk Cousins contract. Who's the best quarterback in the South right now? In the NFC? Who?
No.
Baker Mayfield. It's not close.
Oh my God! Come, Eric.
Baker Mayfield was a Pro Bowler last year, folks.
So you still got Kirk Cousins for how many million less than Baker?
Significantly.
So,
Come on, Eric.
No.
You're like Eric Bayless right now.
Baker Mayfield is far
ridiculous.
and away the best quarterback in that division. It's not close.
No.
And Baker, I think, is cheaper.
No, I don't know the numbers, but there's no way that you can legitimately sit here and tell me that Baker Mayfield is better than Kirk Cousins. It's not going to happen.
Baker Mayfield has more playoff wins.
The window for the Falcons is right now, right? They've got all these great assets under rookie contracts, and they've got the ability to pay a quarterback that's led two franchises in a pretty piss poor division. Like, if you think about it, they go out and they win 11, 12, maybe 13 games because they play in that piss poor division. They're going to get an easy 6-7 matchup in the playoffs at home. And then if that's the case, Eric, then Kirk Cousins pays the whole thing right off in one season.
If they win a playoff game, sure. Getting to the playoffs is significantly different. He got to the playoffs in Minnesota. He got to the playoffs in Washington. They won one game.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Falcons organization.
I understand that. I'm saying
the Falcons organization needs to jump a tier themselves. And if Kirk Cousins can get them over that tier, then he pays off, regardless of whether he wins the playoff game or not.
See, I'm going to disagree with you because because what you just said, you talk about guys who, you have this window because of all this young talent you have. We saw this with the Packers. We've seen it with numerous other teams in the salary cap era. You have a window of 4 to 5 years where your roster is fairly inexpensive. You can go pay your quarterback. You have to win in that window because if you don't win within that window, let's say they don't win a playoff game in the 3 years he's there that he's guaranteed for. You don't win a playoff game, then yeah, you get to the playoffs, say they even get there twice, 2 out of those 3 years, right? You get there twice, well then what's the next step? You bring in somebody else because Kirk Cousins isn't going to sign another contract. He's going to be almost 40 years old. But you're going to be at a point where you have to pay another quarterback to come in and guide your team or draft one while you have all this
What is he,
aging
35?
talent now.
I think he's
35,
35.
34, somewhere in there, but still.
He could definitely get another contract. I mean,
But that's even more to my point then, because you're going to pay him 25, 30 million a year on maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal, and you're still going to have to pay all these other cats as you go along who are now going from rookie contracts to second contracts.
Sean, what do you got to say?
I'm just looking at it. If you're talking your playoffs, are we comparing Trent Dilfer and Aaron Rodgers because they got the same amount of Super Bowl wins?
Ooh.
I mean, are we going there?
See, to me now, Eric, you're talking about the money. So even in three years after he runs this contract out, in 3 years, and you're only going to pay him $25 to $30 million. Think about that. That's still going at that rate in 3 years. That's going to be $30 million underneath the going rate for a star caliber quarterback. They're talking about Jordan Love's extension being somewhere over $40 million a year per.
Jordan Love has the same amount of playoff wins as Kirk Cousins in 1 year starting.
Okay.
So
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what you're doing with Jordan Love right now is you're doing exactly that. You have a young team, including a young quarterback who's still on that rookie deal. The time to win with that contract is now.
It's just vice versa. Because now you're paying the quarterback, and you got a bunch of young talent that you're not paying. So the 3 year window is flip-flopped. Does that make sense?
I get you. I think you have to hit on all your draft picks and stuff too, which, I mean, we have seen that Atlanta has not done so traditionally.
What?
Oh,
What?
Atlanta has been far
Come on,
from a
Eric.
guarantee in the draft.
Drake, London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan
Desmond
Robinson,
Ritter.
who was what, a 3rd round pick? Get alive, dude.
Still got to
What
hit.
are you talking
Still
about?
got to hit though.
We're not talking about Jordan Love at 25 in the 1st round.
Yeah, but you compare them because they were both starting guys. These were the face of your future, face of your franchise.
Desmond Ritter got a 1 year look, and he didn't get it. So they paid Ice Kirk in what, $25-30 million a year, guaranteed. And he's going to take him to the playoffs because he's the best quarterback in that goddamn good division. Dylan, what do you think?
I wouldn't have much confidence in Kirk Cousins personally. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket. But maybe Atlanta sees something that little old me does not.
I would say the only way I would agree with you guys is the Achilles injury. The Achilles injury does scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, he's mid-30s, and the game of football is kind of evolving from quarterbacks who can sit in the pocket and throw to more running backs that can throw.
So
And a 35-year-old quarterback with historical Achilles problems isn't going to be
playing
able
on
to do
turf?
that.
Who's going to be playing on
who's
turf
gonna be
for
playing
8 or
on
9
turf?
games a season?
So
Yeah, that's-
since we're in a world of presenting questions, Kirk Cousins, or would you have taken Justin Fields?
Either.
Well, what was your other option? Russell Wilson?
I would
Gardner
take Russell
Minshew?
Wilson over those three. I'd take Gardner Minshew in a heartbeat.
Well,
Gardner
I mean,
Minshew is a leader of men.
Oh my
Kirk
God.
Cousins plays for Cole's Cash.
You know what? I got to go with a noogie. I am not a fan of the Packers playing in Brazil. What the hell is that?
That's a hot one. That's a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker,
Why?
I'm going to disagree with you. I think it's great.
Why?
I can give you a whole bunch of reasons why. Why I think it's great, though. If the NFL is going to do this, right, which we can debate that. I don't disagree with debating on that. But if we're going to debate on this, the Packers have the largest South American contingency in the NFL by all these stats that marketing people who are far smarter than all four of us combined. No. No offense, Dylan.
Speak for yourself.
I said what I said. Don't look at me upset, Sean.
Loser.
But if you're going to do it, if you're going to play an international game, week one, where you're not costing yourself an extra home game like you did in 2022 when you went to London, is the way to do it. First of all, your time change is only about 2 hours, like going to the West Coast. Your time change is only 2 hours. And if you're doing it on a Friday, you're coming off the preseason where you have that week and change in between for the preseason week 3 to opening week 1. You have that week and a half, almost 2 week gap to kind of get yourself right for that travel trip. You play your game Friday. You have an extra 2 days that have like a mini bye to get back into the swing of things for week 2. And by doing how they did this, the Packers and the Eagles both keep all 9 games at home. Because they went from they took a road game from both of them and moved them to a neutral site game. So your Packers breakdown is going to be 9, 7, and 1.
I don't know that I dislike what you said about both teams taking a road game. But if it's true for college football, then it's true for NFL football. Friday nights are for high school. So I'm going to argue that from a standpoint. Now, I'm a retired football coach now, all right? I have stepped aside, but I still firmly believe that playing on a Friday night is dumb, okay? It's dumb. And the NFL wants to lock up every avenue they can. And you know, whether we can argue whether they should or not, but of course they should. They're the NFL, for Christ's sakes, right? But I don't know. 2 days is not. It's not anything. Like that's not. I mean, one of those days is a travel day, so it's not great rest, right? So it's not like you're going from playing on a Friday night and counting that as your week and then going all the way into the following week as the Monday night game. That's a different type of rest to me. Now, do they both get a home game in week 2? Do you know that?
We do not yet. They haven't released the full schedule, but they released that one because something. That part, I will agree with you on the high school football aspect of it. I agree firmly with that. But just from if you're going to do this, if the NFL is going to do this, and they're telling you have to be involved, this is probably best case scenario.
Why can't it be a Thursday night game?
Because that's your season opener.
So you don't want to open the season in Brazil?
Well, that's traditionally the Super Bowl champion. So unless you're going to do Chiefs Eagles, no, that's the name of the team. It would have been Chiefs Niners. So you would have been doing a rematch of 2 Super Bowls ago.
Send their asses to the.
I'm just saying, if you're going to do this, if the NFL's saying you have to do this, because by all accounts, Mark Murphy was not happy about the prospect of this. But if the NFL is going to put you in a corner and say you have to do this, I guess this is the best route to go about it.
I mean, on the flip side, I would much rather play in Brazil, obviously, than freaking London or wherever, right? Like
that, I agree with. I agree with that.
The,
for sure.
The time change, certainly, you're right in that aspect. But like, you're also traveling to South America. That's hard, you know. I don't know. I don't like it. And I certainly don't like it to start off the year that way.
The counter to that, and I think the side of it that I like that though, is because it's like I said, it's still a travel day for one of your bonus days off, but it still kind of gives you a chance to get back in the swing of things. Where when the Packers went to London in 2022, you play Sunday morning here, you're playing Sunday afternoon, early evening there, and you're coming back, 6-hour flight and change or whatever it is. So you're coming back Sunday night, Monday morning, and then you have to play that following Sunday. So I would rather have almost that full week off if that's how they're going to do this. I
think they should just bring back NFL Europe, NFL South America, NFL Russia, whatever. Just bring it all back and let those teams have affiliates there and stop this hoopla of playing NFL teams over there. It's dumb.
I disagree with that. I'd be okay with that.
Or just play the whole preseason in Europe and be done with it. Make it a 4-week stay. You go there for a month, and then you take a week off to start the season and move on with your life. This flopping back and forth overseas is crazy. I heard a crazy stat today. Here's a crazy stat for you guys because I'm a big Wisconsin public radio guy. All right.
And I'm the nerd.
Don't listen. If you don't listen, this is the type of stuff you learn. All right. Guess how many satellites, privatized satellites, are in Earth's orbit as we speak?
I feel like I want to guess a really high number, but I feel like I'm going to guess either way too high or way too low.
You are.
250,000.
That's way too high.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Remember, they're privatized.
I understand that.
So like Amazon and Google and whatever.
I understand that.
The number. Do you guys want to guess? Sean?
Yeah, let these other two guys guess.
I'll say 1,000.
That's a decent guess.
I was going to say right around 3,000.
That's a decent guess. The number is 9,000 satellites. 9,000. Think about that. 9,000 satellites are in our orbit. Like, how does Elon avoid all these other goddamn satellites when he's flying his little SpaceX Rex out there and landing shit? That's crazy.
Math.
I go back, and it
Geometry,
applies even
math.
more here. People who are significantly smarter than all four of us combined.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was my little gadget.
Sean, you've been quiet. What's your noogie of the week?
I got no noogie. I was gonna hit on the Caitlin Clark thing, and that was about all I had. So
I'm gonna steal Sean's noogie. I'm gonna say Kirk Young. I'm gonna give Kirk Young a noogie. Kirk Young, all right, post this thing about the moving screen against Iowa, right? He says, oh, what does he say? Eric, he says, oh, the girls' basketball game is now rigged. It's whatever the TV companies want. I've clearly taken a great video of what is not even an arguable moving screen, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, by the way.
It's terrible. Like, you can't argue against it.
well, Eric,
I don't know.
Eric tried.
I don't know. And I put on in the comment section. I don't even know how you could argue this. You don't know what you're talking about. That's what I put. He blocked me. This 60-year-old guy blocked me because I disagreed with him. And I'm here to say you're my noogie and you're a little bitch.
Thank you for that rant, by the way, actually, because Eric and I were just disagreeing on how this screen was illegal.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now, Eric. If your argument is you can't make that call at that point, you're dumb.
I did not say that.
Argument. That's the stupidest argument ever.
I agree. My argument was how you officiated that whole game makes that an odd call.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's
An illegal
foul.
screen. An illegal screen, whether the last 10 illegal screens were called or not, is still an illegal screen.
I agree with that.
Exactly.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm just saying that's a tough point to call it when you haven't called it all night.
They did. That was the third one.
Okay, I stand corrected. I will admit I might be at fault here. Sean, I'm not going to say that magic 5-letter word.
Say you're sorry, Eric.
I'm not saying I'm sorry, and I'm not saying the W word. But I'm just saying.
You suck.
I'm just saying.
You're a Kirk Young, is what you are.
Ooh.
You haven't been kicked from the voice chat yet, so.
That one hurts.
I even text Eric. I said, "Are you friends with him?" Because then he mentioned, like, he wrote something to my reply, and then he blocked it, so I couldn't even see what he wrote. Like, are you kidding me?
I'm pretty sure I've gotten that same treatment because I didn't see the comments. So,
coward.
Yes.
All right, we move on.
I feel better about my noogie now. I feel better about this whole, like, you guys can see the smile on my face, but the listeners can't, and I feel way better about my life right now.
I'm
happy.
It's
ear to ear, folks. It's ear to ear.
I'm happy you got that. You deserve that, Justin.
It bothered me. Eric.
You've been sitting here probably since Saturday, just shaking.
I was fuming. I even text my wife. I'm like, "Are you friends with this guy?" Like, the hell? And I had a lot of respect for Kirk, you know? Whatever. I still do. He's just pouty. When he's wrong, he's pouty. Whatever.
So he's Eric.
Yeah. He's Eric. Never wrong. Never wrong.
Have been in the past, but
where's Ramsey, by the way, with all of his Jordan Love hate? I haven't heard from him in like decades. Like, what's going on with this guy?
He's a busy guy. He's hard to track down.
Is he a Love fan now, or what?
Actually, I think he is, and
yeah.
I think that's reading. He might be ducking us.
I'm gonna have to go. He is. He's ducking Thompson over there. I'm telling you. I gotta go back and listen to the old episodes about all the rants he went on about Jordan Love is a bust. He's a bust. Whatever. I stood my ground, Eric. Where is he now?
You know who he also hated on? Baker Mayfield. I have to go back and listen to those two.
Baker has had a little bit of a resurgence. A little bit.
Comeback player of the year, baby. He beat a guy who died. He beat a guy who died for comeback player of the year.
I don't know. I don't know that I feel comfortable with this conversation anymore.
That's just facts.
It should have been tobacco.
Rest in peace. Who died?
I was saying Damar Hamlin. He died. He came back.
Oh, look, he didn't really come back. He played 6 snaps or something, didn't he?
Still counts. He had a playoff snap. Did not go well for him, but he had a playoff snap.
Break his neck again, or what?
You live under a rock?
I'm not a big Damar Hamlin fan.
You know what my favorite? While we're talking about this, and I know we have to move on.
I mean, I love the fact that he lived. Obviously, he didn't actually die on the field.
Do you guys see that he has Twitter beef right now with Antonio Brown?
Damar Hamlin does?
Yeah, it's awesome.
What is I don't even want to know. Anyways,
it's exactly what you think it is. I'll put it that way.
That's a good synopsis.
All right, we move on to our Wisconsin web story of the week. This one actually taking place not inside Wisconsin, but involving a former Milwaukee Brewers player.
Wait,
and
before you go this far, can you describe to me what happened to this pitcher, McGill?
He had food poisoning. He fainted because of the food poisoning, and he got a concussion when he hit his dome on the ground.
What in the good Lord? How does that even happen?
Well, Justin, there is
How is he not laying in bed with food poisoning? Maybe he got up to take a tinkle. Maybe he smoked it off the turdlet.
I got nothing for you. I think he was in public, to be honest with you.
What? You got to be laying in bed resting, man.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just
Don't
telling
the
you the
Brewers have
facts.
people for this? Like, give the guy an IV. I don't know. Anyways,
It's just
all right.
another one of the MLB has like the wildest injury history with just random guys getting wild injuries.
Yes.
Anyway,
I ate fish tacos in a fish bone, tore out my esophagus. I'm on the 15-day DL with esophagus injury or something.
first of all, it's IL, Justin. You can't say
Whatever.
DL.
Why? Because it's disabled?
Yeah, that's
Everybody
exactly-
has a disability. I have a goddamn lazy eye. That's a disability. I'm on the DL for the rest of my life. All right?
I'm not touching that one, but I will. I'm just gonna move on. Our Wisconsin web story of the week. This is probably for the best that we don't touch that one.
All right.
Neighbors upset with former MLB player building baseball field in backyard.
Okay. So before you go on, I saw the headline, but I never clicked on it, so I'm excited to hear this. Who is it, Eric?
Former Major League Baseball player J.J. Hardy is building a miniature baseball field in the backyard of his Arizona home, and some of his neighbors are not happy about it. Hardy played shortstop for the Brewers, Twins, and Orioles, and Pam Lang lives across the street from Hardy's house in a neighborhood in Chandler, Arizona. She said Hardy is building a field of dreams in his backyard for his family and friends. Lang said, everybody has a right to enjoy their own yard, but this is something that is beyond what is reasonable to expect when your neighbors tolerate.
Well,
Lang insists she had no idea that the baseball field was being built until she noticed a dozen 20-foot poles going up to the field's backstop.
nice.
Looking for...
What does the association say? Homeowners Association.
Kind of going through here. She said there's an inherent unfairness to this, an injustice because he can do whatever he wants because it's a county island. I don't have a recourse because I am bound by all these rules in the homeowners association.
Yeah, so shut your mouth, Pam. Like, you got no say in it. Shut your mouth. Nobody cares what you have to say.
She said she would go on to say it's very disappointing and frustrating that all I can do is file a complaint and hope that somebody in the county feels like listening to me. Maricopa County officials did say that Hardy has until April 22nd to get the proper permits to finish his field of dreams. If he doesn't, some of the current construction may need to come down.
Pam's a whore. I don't know. Like, shut up, Pam. Nobody cares what you have to say. Like, what do you think? Yeah, would it be okay if it was a golf course?
She did say that it's like having Top Golf in her backyard, and she would not be okay with that either. Pam does not sound fun to be around.
I'm glad. Pam sits at home, all right, pets her 13 cats that probably go to the groomers, all right, opens 13 cans of cat food. Just shut up, Pam. Nobody cares about you, Pam.
Go back to knitting.
You don't need to be heard, Pam. You got the cuckoo clocks all over the place. Retired Pam. Whatever. All right.
That's all we got for the Wisconsin Web Story of the Week. We go on to our world of sports, which I did want to start with WrestleMania.
All right. I watched it, Eric. Yeah.
I'm going to preface this by saying that I was not able to watch it. One, because I wasn't going to pay for it. And two, I didn't even realize it was this weekend because I've just been busy. But I did see the highlights of it, which I'm assuming you guys are going to get into. And one of the best 5 minutes of any wrestling show I've ever seen.
Oh.
I can guess. I'm sure you guys can guess which 5 minutes I'm talking about, but you guys take it away. Just wanted to preface with that. Go ahead.
Was it the Io Sky and Bailey match?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nostalgia.
I'm just throwing it out there. All right, go ahead, Eric.
All right. So I was just going to say, we had 2 nights of WrestleMania this weekend, as they have the last 3 years now. I think this is the 3rd night or 4th year they've done it, because 2020 they did it as well.
The Paul Levesque era.
The Paul Levesque era, the Triple H era, officially getting away with a boom. And honestly, I thought the entire card was really good. Both nights had some very solid matches. I thought, we'll talk about the night 2 main event in a little bit, but Sean, I'm curious, and Justin for that matter, I'm curious on your match of the night for each night that wasn't the main event of night 2.
Wasn't the main event. I'm gonna go with I want the tag team match where R-Truth finally getting his win at WrestleMania. I thought that was really cool because the crowd was absolutely invested into that. And I guess just the spots in that were phenomenal. That was one of my favorite matches that I watched over the weekend.
For me, night one was obviously the main event. Like I'm gonna. You didn't say night 1 I couldn't take the main event. You said night 2 I couldn't take the main event, right? Night 1 was like The Rock and Roman Reigns. Like The Rock is The Rock, man. Like you just love The Rock, and whether he's an asshole or he's a good dude, like he's The Rock. He puts butts in seats. He's the most electrifying guy in sports entertainment. The match was great. All the cards stacked up now against Cody Rhodes. Night 2, I thought the Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins match was okay. I'm not a big Damian Priest guy, but I thought it was awesome that he comes out and he cashes in and he steals the belt. And CM Punk. They wrote a storyline to get the belt back on McIntyre. Now I didn't stay up late enough on Raw to see if McIntyre won that 4-way match to be the number 1 contender.
He did not. CM Punk cost him again.
Oh, see, so just a great storyline for when CM Punk comes back healthy. That is a big spot. Like the thing with McIntyre has always been like, yes, he's been champion. Like that was his 3rd time, right? But he hasn't always been like the big dog. Like there's always, when he's been champion, there's always been something that's overshadowing.
Well, the big one was that he was the COVID champ, right? He was the COVID champ. He won it at WrestleMania in front of nobody.
Yeah.
The 2020 WrestleMania that they have from the Performance Center. I think he lost it in front of nobody as well.
Yeah. And so like giving him a spot with CM Punk and the writing and the creativeness of it, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, my match of the night number 1 was just the one I think that I was most surprised by, and that was the Sami Zayn versus Gunther.
Oh,
and
I hated it.
Why?
I'm not a fan of either one. I'm just not.
I was surprised that they took it off of. Not that they took it off of Gunther.
Gunther's so awkward. He's just awkward.
He is, but you make this title worth something, and you're going to put it on a guy who kind of not delegitimizes that, but I think there could have been a better feud to take it off of him.
Right. And I maybe it's just I haven't watched in a long time, and just recently started getting back into it with my kids. I don't even like the look of the Intercontinental belt. Like,
no.
I think that devalues that championship drastically too. So that, I mean, like the whole Intercontinental Championship bout was Sammy. Like I'm not a Sami Zayn guy. I'm not a Gunther guy. Like it's just not.
It should have been Chad Gable. That should have been the guy who should have beat Gunther. Just because would have been.
None of those guys feel like they're big enough to hold that belt and the history and the lineage of that belt. Like, it just
feud
doesn't.
that I would have wanted to see, and I can't pronounce his name, but he's the current NXT champion. He debuted on Raw Monday. Ilya, whatever his name.
Dragunov or something like that.
He would have been the one, I think, that would have had a great feud and a great storytelling and a great match with. And I think that would have been probably the person to take it off and have a legitimate, great storyline.
But I don't think he would be. I don't think that would be a good match because I feel like it would just be old school, and that's not what they're looking for right now. I feel.
Right, like I don't know. I'm not a Sami Zayn guy, so maybe it's just me personally. Yeah, you guys seem to like Sami Zayn. I don't know.
I think he's interesting. Like I think he's a great mid-card guy. He's a guy that you want to have on your show and see on a night-by-night basis, but I don't think he needs to have a belt. And I don't think he needed to be the one to take it off of him. I think it kind of delegitimizes that title.
Yeah.
Of what you built it up to be.
But it really wasn't going anywhere. That was the thing.
I think
what it already was.
The guy that needs to have that belt, and the guy that is like the Miz, like a veteran that has been a champion. He's gotten there a couple times, but like he's gonna ride the Intercontinental Championship wave for the rest of his career, and he's the guy that all these young guys have to come up and kind of, like the gatekeeper kind of. Like, he's got to be in that main to mid card spot. And, none of those guys to me right now fit that bill. And maybe that's just old era me. I don't know.
I would agree with that, though. Like, I like the take of that. How would you have felt? I'm going to give you a couple names, Justin, Sean. Just guys who could have been involved in that match and then ultimately ended up losing or not being in that match. But I like The Miz a lot. I actually really do like that because I think that's a perfect title for him to have in the grand scheme of things. But
he's good on the mic. He can carry a lot of these guys. Like, these guys struggle in some facet that doesn't strike. And Miz doesn't. He's main carded. He's carried the company for a while, and he knows how to do it. And so I don't know. Like, and he puts butts in the seats.
So right now probably would have been the timing. So I get that, but what would you have felt about Jey Uso having that belt?
I think that's great. I think that's a great take. I really like. He's never going to be a main. Like, he's never going to be a world title guy. Like, he's just not. But he sells, and he's interesting. Like, Gunther's not interesting. Gunther is. God, who was the last guy that had it, and they were selling him hard? He kind of had a. It'll come back to me. I think he's left the company now.
Well, from what you're describing, and
just never got over the hump.
I think of Jeff Hardy a lot too. Jeff Hardy was kind of that guy who was a mid-card title holder, always shooting for the big title. They gave it to him a couple times.
Yeah.
But that's how I think it should have been.
But that's, like Macho Man. Like, think about the people that held that title, and it meant so much back in the day. And now it's like, I don't know. Would you value the U.S. title over the Intercontinental title right now? No. I think the U.S. title probably got more draws viewing wise than the Intercontinental Championship match.
That's only Logan Paul. That's the only reason.
Or Randy Orton. I mean, Randy Orton he's a top 10 guy in the company, at least.
100% he is.
Yeah.
All right, so, I want to throw two more names real quick. You can just say yes or no. AJ Styles.
Yeah. And I just read an article today about AJ Styles where he said he he sees the end of his run coming. And this is just that's a perfect spot for him, I think. Imagine like a Miz and an AJ Styles feud going for 6 months, and you enter a third guy, right? Like, I don't know. Like it's just got to sell harder to me.
Sean?
I don't know. I got nothing. I just you got to throw out guys that weren't in feuds. And you're really not doing that for me.
And then Ricochet.
You're just not going to let this guy go, are you?
Well, I'm putting a guy who had a chance to be in that match, was in the gauntlet match, didn't have a WrestleMania match, who has held that belt before.
But I like Kevin Owens for that belt.
Right. I mean, there's so many other guys that would be better than Ricochet.
Ricochet should be a cruiserweight champion or something.
Right.
You know? I don't know.
I guess I got one more name, just because I can. Finn Balor.
I would put him in the Sami Zayn category. Like, what about him intrigues me? Nothing. Like, there's nothing that, I don't know. He just doesn't sell to me.
I think you're perfect. Your guy that's in the middle of everything would be Dominic Mysterio. Would be good for a belt like that, because you'd have a young guy that's going crazy, and he's good on the mic, and he's hated, and that's the guy I feel like you want for titles.
I would agree. Can he put butts in the seat?
Oh, 100% he can.
Yeah.
Because you want to watch him lose.
Right. And if he keeps winning by the skin of his teeth the whole time, it's going to be perfect.
Well, speaking of winning by the skin of your teeth, a certain Universal Champion had been doing that for the better part of 2 years now of his 3.5-year run. And no longer the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, losing to Cody Rhodes, night number 2, main event. Obviously, I would say probably the match of the night or match of the weekend. Possibly a match. No?
I'm listening. I want those guys to talk first.
I was going to say definitely probably moment of the year. Moment of quite some time.
Okay. Sean?
If you didn't have the nostalgia, would it have been the same?
Maybe not, but that is part of it, though. That's right. Exactly part of it. It's the storytelling of it.
The first pay-per-view of the year, I would consider, because you had the Slammies, so it's going to be the first pay-per-view, and you're calling that moment of the year just to begin with. There's going to be so many other moments that are going to be so much better than this. I think this is just a taste of what we're going to get.
It very well could be, and I hope that it is. But the nostalgia of it and the conclusion of 2 years of commitment to this. And really, I mean, if you kind of start piecing it together, I mean, it's really probably about a 4-year process if you really kind of get into it. I was a big fan, and I thought it was executed just about perfectly.
Dylan?
I have no input on this. I'm sorry.
You said you saw 5 minutes worth. What was your 5 minutes worth of?
I watched
love?
Like highlights.
Okay.
I watched from the moment. See, we're spoiling main event on night 2.
It happened already. We've had shows since then, so yeah, you're good.
Oh God. Okay, so I watched basically from the moment John Cena ran in until the moment Undertaker disappeared.
Okay.
And that was just nostalgia. pure nostalgia. Obviously, I was too young to see The Rock in the ring like during his prime, but I was there.
You missed a great life, my friend.
I know I did. That's not my fault. I was too young.
No.
I was there for Undertaker. I was there for John Cena, and it was just nostalgia. I really don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bust your hearts, boys. I hated it.
That's fine. I respect your opinion.
I hated all of it. I thought they missed just a golden opportunity of writing something long term between Roman Reigns and The Rock. And you had the ability to give Roman Reigns the respect and the amount of love that he needed out of a long storyline with The Rock, and you did it all for one night to let and Cody could have still finished his story, right? This could have happened in such a legitimate way. Saturday night, The Rock could have turned on Roman Reigns and cost turnaround or even let it play the way it did Saturday night and have The Rock cost Roman Reigns the title for Cody on Sunday night. And then Roman Reigns rises off into the sunset and takes his leave of absence that he's well deserved. And him and The Rock, because Rock, after WrestleMania, Rock's going bye-bye for a little bit, probably coming back next WrestleMania around. Allow Roman to come back and get his feet wet again. And then, boom, sometime in the next 6, 7, 8 months, The Rock pops back up. He goes back in his 12-week training camp, and they go finish that story.
What's saying they can't, though?
Who's the head of the table?
What's saying they can't, though? Because I think they did that.
How did they do that? Rock didn't turn on him.
He doesn't have to.
And Monday night showed that Rock and Cody have a story.
They may have a story, but here's how I can very much see this going.
And I don't understand why John Cena and the Undertaker, like.
Let me paint you a picture.
All the interference of it, like it just bloodline rule. Like I didn't like it.
Here's why you specifically are wrong.
I don't know
So,
if that's right.
I'm going to start with just your first point of, I think what this does. So, night number 1, tag match. The Rock pins Cody. That's how that match comes to an end. We all know that. What that does, by having him lose night number 2, Cody pins Roman, is now whenever they bring Roman and The Rock back, The Rock can say, I beat Cody, you didn't, I'm the tribal chief. You don't need to have a belt for that. You don't need to have whatever for that. That's your story. That's your angle right there.
Yeah, but that's not
the interferences on night number 2. Starting with,
that's not an angle. Like that's not much of an angle. Like
sure,
they haven't ever disputed who the boss was.
But now you can. Now you
Why?
can. Because Roman lost the title, he lost his relevancy because he's the one that lost to Cody, but Cody got beat by The Rock. Cody got pinned by The Rock in the middle of the ring night 1. So your interferences, though, and why I would disagree with you night 2, why you don't have The Rock take out Roman or whatever, even though it's bloodline rules or whatever, and you can do that, is because for the people who are going to be negative about that win for Cody, which there is a very loud minority. It's a very small but very vocal group. Is Cody needed to win that relatively clean, where nobody actually got on Roman. All the interference either happened to Cody or happened among those coming in against each other. Jay comes in to take care of Jimmy. That makes sense. Solo comes in. John Cena comes in because John Cena got beat by Solo. Was it last year at WrestleMania or was that SummerSlam, Sean?
SummerSlam, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you. So John Cena has unfinished business with Solo. For what it's worth, that's also Solo's last singles win. So they kind of had to put a bow on that. I won't disagree with you. The Undertaker didn't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of there's not like a direct storyline to it. Like you bring Seth out, Seth gets kind of crushed with the Shield thing right away. You don't really. Yeah. He's been tied to the story, but I know they bring that back. They circle back to that. So the Undertaker, I don't. I think there's people kind of explaining it where when the Undertaker was in the business, he was the one kind of policing things in the back between the superstars. So he kind of was policing this to make it right for Cody. You can also make the argument that, Roman's one of the two guys who ever beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania, and Paul Heyman was with the other guy who beat him. So he does have a very loose tie. They never really came back to that. But I can legitimize why all those guys are in the ring.
So you still haven't proved. You still haven't told me why I'm wrong.
But that's what I'm saying is if you don't have Cody win relatively clean, where he doesn't have somebody take out Roman for him, then if that happens, if The Rock hits Roman with a people's elbow and
isn't that what I'm telling you? That's exactly what I'm telling you.
No, but what I'm saying is if The Rock does that, and then Cody just falls on him for the pin or whatever, then everyone's like, oh well, technically The Rock beat Roman. Cody didn't. It legitimizes. He does
that Saturday night. He turns on him. He does it Saturday night, and then it's a clean, no bloodlines rule on Sunday, and he beats him clean.
But we know that's not going to happen. It would just set the stage for the exact same thing that happens last year. Ref takes a bump or whatever, and then Solo comes out, Samoan spikes Cody, and it's done.
He can't. He'd lose the title.
No, you don't end a disqualification, though. If Roman gets disqualified, he keeps the belt. Champion's advantage.
Whatever.
That's why you're wrong. You had to do it this way.
No.
To make it legitimate and make it make sense.
It was a terrible match. It was
Dylan,
terrible.
As the outsider here, Dylan, what do you have to say?
I don't know, man. I haven't been following wrestling in a decade. I see bits and pieces of it here and there. I see my childhood, the wrestlers from my childhood pop up every now and then, and I give it a thumbs up.
Yep.
That's about as involved as I get with wrestling these days.
Well, first of all, you should. This is great.
It was the thing that you didn't expect. And I think that's what the best part of it was you weren't expecting The Undertaker to show up. You could have figured maybe John Cena would show up.
You knew John Cena was going to show up because Solo was going to show up.
Yeah, but you could have started a feud with somebody else for Solo too.
You knew
Sami Zayn could have showed up. There's guys in the back who could have shown up.
I was really waiting for Jon Moxley to show up. I really was when that
I would have loved.
When that Shield music hit, I almost had a suspicion. The only reason I didn't expect it was because if Tony Khan wasn't going to let Dustin be seen on TV celebrating with him.
That was the other person that I was thinking was gonna show up was Goldust.
Yeah.
But
I would have loved that. And if Dustin doesn't get to celebrate with Cody and he can't be on TV, he has to stay in his little suite. There was no chance in hell Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, was going to show up.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just Tony Khan wasn't going to let that happen.
Right.
Anyway.
But all in all, it was an awesome pay-per-view, or not pay-per-view, but
Premium live event.
live event. So
Would
All
have
right.
been better anyway.
Well, we move on
Eric's
back
ways.
to the world of X's and O's sports, and I did not expect to be talking Green Bay women's basketball 2 weeks in a row. But
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, Eric. I'd like to talk about this for a little bit.
you know, I figured that's why you'd be on the show. I thought you would have showed up on time, but I figured you'd be on the show because of our conversation earlier
sorry
today.
for being a dad today, Eric. Every other Wednesday I'll take off of being a dad for Eric.
All I ask, I don't think that's too big of a request.
Agreed.
Shut up, Eric.
Green Bay women's basketball will be going through a change as Coach Kevin Borseth has decided to retire effective June 30th is the official technical date. But for all intents and purposes, it's going to be in the next couple days here. Kevin Borseth record with Green Bay, or overall record, I should say, at the NCAA level, just an astonishing 821 and 316.
That's pretty good.
13 NCAA tournament berths, 9-time coach of the year. 21 seasons with Green Bay, 16th winningest Division I women's basketball head coach of all time. In his retirement press conference today, Coach Borseth made mention of his age being a factor, also kind of referring to his hip surgery he had done during this season, as well as just how hard recruiting had gotten with his looming age kind of tied into it, where kind of recruits were thinking, they're asking him the question, well, when are you going to retire? Like, how long are you going to be here? Are you going to be here for my entire 4 years, or are you going to be here for 1 or 2? Which I'm sure not an easy question to answer when you don't know yourself per se either.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of one hell of a successful era with Green Bay basketball. Coach Borseth does plan to stick around the program as much as possible. Will also be involved in the coaching search for the replacement, which I'm sure this is what you really want to talk about, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying what this guy has meant, not only to the game of basketball, but really for the game of girls basketball in our state. The factors of who we are. We have a girl in our region who she just won the McDonald's 3-point contest, either gender. She's from Nina. She's a top 10 rated player in the nation. She's going to UConn, joining another girl in KK Arnold that's at UConn. We talked a little bit about it when we covered state basketball, the Pewaukee and Notre Dame game. There was 6 Division 1 or 2 recruits on the floor at one time. There's a lot of that in what Kevin Borseth has done with UWGB women's basketball in our state. There's a lot in our area. Our girls in our area have strived now more. It grows each year. In what year did he take over, Eric? 90. I just read it like 6 times, like
98.
2003 or something like that.
He was at Green Bay from
98 to
98
2007.
to 2007, and then
Yeah. So from 1998 to where we are today, a the want and the will and the growth of our game and just our area alone to earn a scholarship from him and play for one of the best college basketball coaches, regardless of level. You have to remember, this guy was a Power 5 coach. He is a Power 5 caliber coach. He left a Power 5 job to come back. He didn't get fired. He didn't get booted out. I mean, maybe he had the John Calipari thing going where they weren't very happy with him, but he chose to come back. But what he's done to grow the game of basketball in our state, in our area, I don't know could ever be replicated. And I text Eric earlier, what kind of coach can UWGB get now to help replicate what he's done for our game? And Eric threw out a couple names, and Eric, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, before we get into those names, I did want to ask Dylan, and I know we've talked about this on the show before, but Dylan, you were a practice player under Coach Borseth for 2 years?
Yes.
I guess just kind of, if you can, I know we've talked about this before, but just looking back at those 2 years, what was it like being around Coach Borseth?
The man is just a trove of basketball knowledge. He is insanely detailed. You know, most of our role as practice players was we had to be the other team in prep. And he would give us like this list of like, you got to pretend to be this player, and you got to pretend to be this player, and then you got to pretend to be this player. Here's what you got to do. And when the girl you're guarding does this, you got to do this. And it's like, you get all of this just from watching a little bit of film. I mean, the dude is a basketball savant, and people just don't. You don't pick up on how intelligent these coaches actually are just by watching them on the sidelines. But when you're with them on a daily basis and you're learning from them, it's just a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I'll kind of say something, that just kind of, working in the scene that I do. One thing that kind of goes with that and what we're going to talk about here in just a moment of possible replacements and why I think, the names that we're going to go through here are possibilities, is the way that he would organize the staff. I mean, Dylan, you talk about watching film, and yeah, he watches all film too. But one thing that he does is such a great level, and is bringing minds and players, for that matter, who operate on a similar level to him, to the degree that when they go through film, it's like, okay, Coach Vogel had this opponent, Coach Bronk had this one, another one had this one. So they're 3 games out with watching film and tendencies, because they have 3 or 4 assistant coaches who are just dedicated to one team, and then they rotate. And I'm sure that's not revolutionary. I'm sure that's done all over the country. But when you can get your staff on the same level of that, then you communicate to the players and the practice players, and can get everybody on the same page. That's why you're successful. That's why you win 821 games. Which leads me to possible replacements. And it's a very tough, those are big shoes to fill, right? Like, I don't think that's overstating.
It goes without saying
at all.
Yeah.
I would also argue it may be one of the most attractive mid-major jobs out there.
Oh yeah.
By far.
So with that in mind, and also keeping in mind that you graduated only one player who really rotated in on a regular basis. You lose 3 in total so far. I don't know if anyone's going to transfer out with the news today. I don't foresee that happening. But when you only end up losing one player out of your rotation from a team that finished a game out of the regular season title and went on the conference tournament run they did, win the Horizon League title, and then go to the NCAA tournament, that is a stacked lineup that whoever comes to be the head coach is going to inherit. So I think it's very important to find somebody who meshes with that roster, meshes with how they operate, and keeps them as a formative unit. Which leads me to about 4 names that I would consider as internal, or 3 names are really internal/internal adjacent. And then 2 names that I have in mind as outside gets with ties. So the first is going to be probably the most obvious, but also probably the most confusing, I guess, for lack of a better term, or the hardest to get of the quote-unquote internal people, and that's former associate head coach Megan Vogel, who had been on the staff for a long time now, but had just agreed to a job as an assistant coach with the WNBA Phoenix Mercury. And as Dylan had mentioned, just moved out there within the last week.
Yeah, you would find that one tough because had he known well in advance, you would think that it's a little weird. Like he retired, you would think that there'd be a little bit of a Bo Ryan, Greg Gard situation here, where the handoff is pretty transitional, and she knows that she's going to be the head coach in waiting, and why. And maybe we're reading between the lines here, Eric, out loud. Maybe that's why the transition of taking the WNBA job is there, and maybe they just didn't think that she was quite ready for the head coaching position.
Yeah,
to make her a coach in waiting.
That's kind of what I was saying too, because when this was all going on, I was talking to Dylan, and I kind of thought the first thing I thought it was the same thing of, I can't foresee, at the very least, Coach Borseth not acknowledging that this is a possibility, that he may retire at the end of the season, turning age 70, as you mentioned, in June. So I got to feel like, and just knowing who he is as a person and, you know, how he presents himself, I got to feel like there would at least been some level of conversation, right? Like, this probably didn't come completely out of nowhere. I will say the caveat to that is, if, you know, you're not sure if it's going to be this year or next year, and you have a person in Megan Vogel, and truthfully, it may even depend on what her career aspirations are too, right? Like, one of her goals that she's mentioned in media interviews has always been WNBA. And it doesn't hurt that the team that she'll be working for, if she decides to keep this job, is the team who drafted her as a player that she never really got to play for. The coach of the Phoenix Mercury, also a South Dakota State person, which is who she played for. So there's ties there as well, which really makes this complicated in that regard. Or like you said, Justin, there's the possibility, and this is not a dig at Coach Vogel. I think she's a great coach and a great person. Dylan, you can speak on her as a person probably a little bit more as well, but maybe they didn't find that she was ready. I mean, she did have a couple games as acting head coach this season with Borseth's surgery, where she was the bench head coach, and she had been that associate head coach for about a year and a half now. So maybe that's the role, or maybe it did just come out of nowhere, and now she's caught between a rock and a hard place.
Dylan?
So Dylan, your thoughts on Coach Vogel?
Excuse me. Yeah, she would have obviously been the first pick. She had the tenacity that Borseth brought. She has the basketball knowledge. She has the youth to be able to be in this position for a long time. She had the respect of the players. I don't remember if I said that or not. The players wanted to, at least when I was there, they wanted to work with her. They weren't They weren't scared of her. She was intense, but in the best way possible. So she would have been the first choice that comes to my mind would have been Megan Vogel. I'm kind of with you guys. I mean, I would think that Borseth would have the foresight to say, hey, just so you know, this is likely to happen this offseason where I'm going to retire. But, she got offered her dream job, foot in the door for her dream job, and maybe she just didn't want to pass it up. You
Sean, any thoughts?
Nope, I got nothing.
So that's one name. You start looking at internal candidates as well, and the first one that kind of goes with that is somebody who probably was going to be filling her role, and that's Sarah Bronk. Sarah Bronk has been with the team going back quite some time now as well. So that's another name you kind of think about. Another of the kind of, I guess, internal adjacent, and Justin, I think you're going to have a lot of foresight on this, is Amanda Leonard Perry, who have been an assistant under Borseth and has gone on to take a head coaching job in town here at St. Norbert College, Division III in De Pere.
Yeah, and St. Norbert's has a lot to offer, and former Pulaski head coach Jeff Charney is a great assistant for her. I thought she was going to be a dynamite hire for St. Norbert's, and while she's had some success there, it hasn't been wildly great. It's hard to recruit to the D3 level. It's even harder to recruit to the D3 level when your tuition is crazy. And so when you put that into perspective in the semi amount of success that she's had there with D1 experience, specifically in GB culture, I think she would be a decent hire. Now, I will say this. If it's not Megan Vogel, I don't think it's going to be any of these. If it's not Megan Vogel, it's going to be very hard for them to stay within the GB family. There's a couple names that make sense, but one name you would ask to come down, and I don't know that Amanda Leonard Perry has the experience long enough with the success to match it long enough to jump to that position.
That is a tough jump. On the one hand, she does have the head coaching experience, but it's at a totally different level.
Now, I'm not saying that it's a tough jump. I'm just saying that when you lack the inexperience long enough, she's only been there, 3 years?
Technically, I think 4 years, because I think she was hired pre-COVID in 2020. Okay. They didn't play the 2020 season.
Yeah. So, but 3 years of coaching, right? Like,
correct.
At that level. And I don't have it. I haven't looked it up, but I know it's not wild success that she's had. And the one thing you like about it that somebody that recruits the area, recruits our region. I think is trying to recruit broader. And so
entering this season, I had to kind of put it all together here, but entering the season was 52-28, including the 2022-23 season where she was 24-4 and a unbeaten conference season and tournament title in the NACC.
This year?
That was 22-23, so a season ago.
Yeah. So I don't think they were great this year.
But let me take a look at their record here just a moment. This St. Norbert's website is not great.
Yeah.
This year 18-10, so 60-38 as a whole, 13-3 in the conference, and
Didn't make the
lost in
tournament.
the NACC conference title game against Wisconsin Lutheran.
Yeah. So, and I don't think she's made. Did she? I don't know that she's made the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, when you're talking about success, that's kind of.
They would have if they won the regular season and conference title season last season, right? Let me double check it.
I don't know that they won the tournament to get in.
In 2022-23, they did make a first round appearance and lost to Hope College in the first round of the NCAA Division III tournament.
Okay. So I a little bit stand corrected. There has been some success there. But is it enough? There's another D3 coach that I'm going to bring up in this conversation later, Eric, after you go through some more of your candidates.
So my other two candidates, Green Bay adjacent, Green Bay ties. The first is a direct disciple of Kevin Borseth, had been an assistant with him at Michigan Tech, Green Bay, and Michigan before branching out on his own. And that is John Barnes, who also has Horizon League experience, was the head coach of Youngstown State for 10 seasons in the Horizon League. Has family from Upper Michigan, had stepped away from Youngstown State towards the beginning of the season, took a leave of absence due to a personal family matter, and ultimately ended up resigning on that accord this offseason as well. Or this about start of February, prior to the end of the Horizon League season. So that would be one name. The other name was the successor to Coach Borseth the first time at Green Bay, and that's Coach Matt Bolland, who is the head man at Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, see, now I don't like Matt Bolland always is struck me as a career-driven guy. I am there to see how high I can get. And would we talk about Eastern Illinois as a higher or lower job than GB?
Well, I think it depends on how you value the Ohio Valley Conference in women's basketball.
Yeah.
Men's basketball, I would say overall probably higher.
Yeah.
Horizon League for women's basketball, though, I would say equal, if not maybe higher for the Horizon League. The Horizon League is such a good conference. It's at the mid-major level.
Pay matters, Pay is going to be, and I don't know how much Borseth made. I don't think it was. Well, it might have been crazy for girls basketball, but that's something like $100,000 and some $1,000.
I can find it here in a second if you guys.
Yeah. Who's your wild card, Eric?
I think John Barnes is probably my wild card. I think he makes a lot of sense on paper if Coach Vogel is not the one. I think he's a equally tough get in the sense that if he's going to step away from one job, that is a tough ask of former, especially when you have to face those former players twice a year, sometimes three times a year. And again, I'm sure no one internally faults him. I don't know what the family matter was, but I think that would be a guy who followed the Coach Borseth train through 3 of those big time stops before getting his own job. Was a very successful coach at Youngstown State in his own right. I'd have to look up the exact record as a head coach, but definitely successful in his own right. So don't want to take anything away from him. I don't know if the time off has been enough to kind of get through whatever was the issue of why he stepped away.
Yeah. So I've got Dylan. You got anything to add about any of these internal candidates? Maybe you know something that I don't know.
I'm leaning towards Matt Bolland out of Eastern Illinois, just because he's already been here and he's had major success here. And if that does happen, I would expect Allie Alexander, formerly known as Allie LeClaire, who's an assistant coach at Eastern Illinois. I would expect her to follow. Standout UWGB basketball player while Eric and I were in school there, and I would think that.
Is she a candidate herself?
That's what I'm thinking.
I would say no.
I think she's. I don't think that she would be hired just because of her lack of experience, but I do think that she's at least going to try. She's going to apply. She's a great basketball mind. She's young. She's going to have respect of the players, and she's a direct disciple of Kevin Borseth, not as a coach but as a player. She understands his system. She is going to be able to continue his exact system, and the players that are there currently are going to have that confidence as well. I don't think she's going to get the job, but I don't think she should be overlooked.
Was she a teammate? And this is where I'm kind of even asking a little further. And I would agree. I think having only been an assistant coach, and I think only for 2 years now at Eastern Illinois, I can't remember if she's a little too young or would be the same age, but she even might have been a teammate of Borseth's daughters at Notre Dame.
Potentially.
Even if I don't know if they were same graduating class, but I almost feel like they were at the very least teammates, at least for a year or two. Not that that matters a whole lot, but I'm just that is something, when you talk about the Borseth system, who's been around him for even longer in theory than just her 4 years of college.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, I think she was a graduate assistant under him as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't recall.
Okay. All right, I got two names for you, Eric. This first one would be somebody that's jumping down, but is an alum, formerly Kayla Teschlag, who's the head coach at South Dakota. Kayla Caruso, I believe she's known as now, or Carius. I don't know how to say it. Not good with that stuff. But has a plethora.
Not to cut you off, I do want to bid Dylan a farewell and a good night.
Yes, I have to go. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.
See ya.
We were on Kayla, right? And so she is, an alumni, has a plethora of college coaching experience as an assistant coach at Wisconsin, assistant coach at Drake, took the head coaching position at South Dakota. Not a lot of great success there yet, but played professionally overseas. Knows the state of Wisconsin, has even recruited the state of Wisconsin for South Dakota, and is doing a great job. Has a Shawano alum transfer on her roster right now, and so she would recruit this area well. Now this name is out of UWGB Culture Link, Eric, and it might shock you as to the name, but I think this coach would have a load of success because he's had a load of success of where he's at currently. And I think Brad Fisher from UW Oshkosh would be a big look for this position. He has risen UW Oshkosh's program on the D3 level to a national power. one of the top 16. I think he's been to multiple Sweet 16s recently. A top 20, 25 program in the nation at the D3 level. Recruits our area, knows the state, and has done a terrific job with some of our local kids. And I think he would be somebody that I would put on the short list.
That's somebody I didn't think of, but that would be definitely an intriguing name out of the D3 world. And I would even say potentially a better candidate than Amanda Leonard Perry, just for the experience. Yeah. I think where Amanda Leonard Perry kind of comes in is having that tie to Borseth. I don't think we should necessarily just limit it to people with ties, but I think what was said today, and I don't know if either of you have seen the press conference today, and Sean, you're probably just trying to stay awake right now. But if you haven't seen it, one thing they frequently mention, both Kevin Borseth, who is going to be involved in the search along with the hiring firm, and athletic director Josh Moon, both mentioning that it's important to find somebody who understands the culture of Green Bay basketball and Green Bay women's basketball, understands the city of Green Bay and how the community appreciates the program and how they come out and everything with that. So I think they're kind of saying without saying that that's kind of the what they're looking into. And I think they're looking for people with ties to it, or with the program. Fisher is an interesting cat, though. I think that would be, when you talk about local recruiting and a guy who does it very well throughout the state, he's definitely that guy.
Yeah.
Who gets people to want to come to the program on a slightly lower level than Green Bay. Yeah. And when you kind of give him that scholarship option, I think that would be an interesting get.
I wouldn't I wouldn't dislike it. I could tell you that. I mean, he started his own coaching tree, even within his conference. Kelly McNiff, former De Pere High School head coach, joined him as his assistant coach, and now she's the head coach down in Platteville, and doing just a terrific job down there. And she recruits the state well. So like there's no shortage of options. And I just think what Fisher brings with experience along with success, when you match it with how he recruits our area, he in the D3 level, he has really put a fence around our area. And to speak otherwise, Amanda Leonard Perry has done a pretty goddamn good job. In retrospect, when you have Big Brother and UW Oshkosh sitting right up the court, or up I-41,
Well, and you even mentioned just getting people to come to that college, pay the tuition. Not that everyone has to do this, but having a religious school like that on the private school level at a D3 level, that's a tough recruiting window to even get into.
To sell, and it's not the qualifications to get into. It's not like going to a state school. It's a private institution, so let's just say old Coach Dahl couldn't have attended St. Norbert's College. All right. Oshkosh, maybe. Not
Sean, we haven't heard from you in a while, Sean. What are your thoughts here?
This is above my pay grade.
Anything?
I got nothing.
Yeah. So when you put it in tiers, like when you put it in a tier of, I do like your Barnes guy. When you match the success, can he have the longevity? Knows the culture, knows the system, but does he know the area well? You don't know that, Probably Kayla Carius or Caruso or however you say it.
Carius, actually. I looked it up.
Carius, thank you. Kayla Carius, Kayla Teschlag. She's probably, between those two, are probably 1A, 1B on my wish list. But then you go down. I think, in my estimation, I think Brad Fisher is a good third option. And
He's an intriguing third option.
I don't think Matt Pollock comes back. I think that's a pipeline dream.
It might be. I think the reason he's going to get brought up just in conversation with us talking heads.
Yeah, because he is a local guy, right? Like he is from
Winona, Minnesota.
Oh, I thought
across the border.
Why did I think he was like from Tigerton or something? Didn't he teach in Tigerton or something like that?
No idea.
Yeah, I thought he had. Whatever. Not important, but anyways, that would be my rundown on how it would go for me.
Yeah, that definitely, it's definitely an intriguing conversation. One that I think we're going to learn a lot of the direction the program is going to continue to go in.
How fast do you think this move goes, Eric?
I don't know. And I guess I say that because, the world of the transfer portal really kind of speeds coaching decisions up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And not that we haven't seen really the women's game get as far into it as of late. But when you look at this roster, one of the most important players of this roster, first team all league, Natalie McNeil, transfer portal, back from St. Louis. So there are fish to be caught out in that pond. As well, it's not as big as the men's pond right now, but still fish to be caught.
She probably would have entered the transfer portal even if Borseth was still there, right? She's got to chase that dollar.
Natalie? Oh, she hasn't entered it since she came. She came from St. Louis to here.
Oh, I thought you said she entered the portal.
No,
isn't that what you thought he said? This guy talks in circles sometimes to me.
He always talks in circles.
It's ridiculous. Anyways.
But yeah, what I thought I said was that I don't think they've had anybody enter the portal since this morning with the announcement. Anyway,
right.
So I think we get the answer relatively soon. I don't know if I'd have an exact timeline. I'd probably say beginning of May. Beginning mid-May.
State school, they got to post it. All that jazz.
Yeah, I guess I forgot we're almost to the midpoint of April.
2 weeks.
So yeah, maybe mid-May, end of May, with that in mind.
Oof, that's a long time.
I think the goal would be as quick as possible, right? Like that's, like I said, it is a state school, so they technically do have to post it, but I think they probably have those 3 to 4 names in mind in their tiers of who they want. And if they want to come, that's on them. I think it's also going to be very important on top of the whole transfer portal world to kind of, Coach Borseth had mentioned it today during his comments, but just keeping this group together and keeping them within the same culture and the same mindset and all that too, I think is going to be a challenge, not a challenge, but I think it's an important part of this decision.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be interesting. I hope it goes fast.
Yeah. All right, moving on real quick here. Nothing really on the Packers. 2 weeks away from the draft. Be sure to keep up with our social media pages as we have more and more mock drafts along the way.
Your mock drafts suck too, by the way. My mock drafts are way better than yours.
if you say so.
The Packers are taking a quarterback, Eric.
If that's your
What
only
do you think?
complaint,
Sean, what do you think? You think they're taking a quarterback?
I think they take one at some point.
Could never have too much competition at the quarterback position, Eric. Just telling you.
if you want a 7th-round quarterback, take a 7th-round quarterback. I don't care.
Spencer Rattler in the 3rd round.
Absolutely not. That is entirely too high to take a quarterback.
That's where they're taking one. Getting value.
I would bet you if they do take one, 5th round or later, maybe even 6th round or 7th, if they take one.
I think they're definitely taking one, along with 2 wide receivers.
Another just terrible.
Just telling you. They're going to go defensive back, 1st round. It's going to be awesome. They're gonna draft a guy named Kool-Aid, and then in the 7th round they're gonna draft a tight end named Tip Riemann. If that guy's on the board in the 7th round, Eric, you gotta draft the guy named Tip Riemann.
I mean, I don't think you do, but
I'm just telling you, it's bad juju if you don't. Anyways,
I think you're wrong. I think they do take a DB either 1st or 2nd round. They might take 2.
I think they go defense heavy. This is what they do. 11 out of the last 12, right? New coordinator.
I think it depends on who. Obviously, it's going to depend on who's on the board, especially at that defensive level, because I could very much see them taking a tackle at 25.
Really? What do you think? Tavondre Sweat got a DUI, Eric. He fell right down the goddamn pipe, huh?
I might go from a late 1st, early 2nd to a late 2nd, early 3rd.
He might go to like a 7th round.
Ooh, possible.
You know how the draft works. He's got character issues, Eric. He's like you, which is why, it's why Shauna is questioning herself right now, right? Like, she's at the final gates. She's questioning herself, like, this guy's got character issues. Do I want to draft this guy, or maybe
that's rude.
What do you think, Sean?
Sean, don't answer that. Don't answer that.
I'm just telling you, she better stick with you, because I bought shoes already. All right, so
if we haven't talked her out of it by now, she's not going to get talked out of it.
All right, moving on.
I don't know.
Ruined my life. Dylan would usually be here to talk Bucks. Giannis avoided serious injury. I guess that's really the good news going on. Bucks looking to make 2 in a row with a potential win tonight over Orlando. And the Brewers playing pretty well. Christian Yelich might be back. Hit his 5th home run of the young season tonight.
He's on the juice.
You had to jinx it, didn't you?
It might be. I didn't say he is. I did not declare.
He's on the juice.
Is that the Ryan Braun juice?
Yep.
Allegedly.
Hey, that doctor's in jail.
All right. Wrapping up the episode, we have our Ticket Smarter, what we are rooting for in the upcoming week. And Ticket Smarter rooting for in the upcoming week, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Gamblers versus Madison Capitals Saturday night, April 13th. Tickets available through Ticket Smarter. Use code ROOTS10, ROOTS, number 10, for $10 off your order. Code ROOTS10 for those tickets. Boys, what are you rooting for in the upcoming week?
There's not anything to root for. There's nothing to root for, Eric. Like, it's a terrible time of the year, right? Like, MLB just kicked off, so they've got like 4,600 and 66 more games to go until baseball matters. And goddamn NBA playoffs are about to start. So, you've got 3 more months of that happening because it takes 3 months to play playoff games, to where those actually matter to these super teams. So there's not. I'm rooting for you, Eric. I
don't even know what to say to that.
I'm rooting for you to stay in Shauna's good graces. You're getting to the finish line, Eric. I don't want you to screw it up.
It'd be ideal.
It would be ideal to screw it up.
No, that I don't.
Oh.
So I'm rooting for you, Sean or Eric.
We're rooting for Shauna.
Yeah.
Sean, what do you got?
Make something out of you.
I'm gonna go with the weather to hopefully stay as the way it is. That's what I'm rooting for. It was beautiful today.
All right. I guess I'm gonna be going with the Brewers. Guys, it's Masters weekend. How can you not be excited about the Masters?
That's true. Who's your pick?
Tiger.
Tiger has gone off. He's gone to the world of abstinence, so
it's
gonna be all sorts of focused.
Let's break it down. Here's the true Masters question. All right. Does Freddie Couples make the cut or does he not make the cut? It's always the Freddie Couples. Can he make Saturday?
No.
No?
I'm going no.
Okay.
I'm also going to go no for no reason other than just I don't want to.
Right.
All right. Who's your pick, Eric?
I'm going to go.
Are you really picking Tiger Woods, Sean?
Yep. I'm picking Tiger.
He's not any good since they took his third ACL out of his knee.
Don't matter. He can still win. Anybody can win on a golf course.
Are you looking at Shauna right now to give you a pick for the Masters?
Absolutely not.
You are.
I'm looking at betting odds. Tiger Woods is plus 10,000. I'm gonna go with Xander Schauffele.
Oh, of course.
At plus 1,600.
Okay. 2 names.
We'll get to pick 2. That's not how this works.
Hideki Matsuyama.
All right, plus 1,800. Solid choice.
Yeah, thank you. And my
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
My old timer pick to make the cut. Stuart Sink.
I'm not even sure if there's betting odds.
Maybe he didn't even qualify. I don't know. Anyways.
It reminds me of that scene in Major League One. This guy's dead. Cross him off then.
He's not.
All right. With that said, that's episode 149.
This show absolutely sucked tonight.
It does. For Dylan who went to bed. For
a guy quit on us in the middle of the show. Said, screw this, I'm going to bed. You guys suck so bad, I'm going to bed. Oh my God. You're going to have to do a lot of convincing to bring me back.
I don't think we have to twist your arm that hard. For Dylan who's not here. For Ramsey who's not here. For Sean who's not here. For Dylan who went to bed. That's Justin and Sean. I'm Eric.
Ramsey, get your ass back here.
Episode 149. Folks, we're out. See ya.
This show sucks. Peace.